also found painted icons of the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus, along with an image of Abraham, which he spared. According to tradition, there was also a statue of the god who...
Huh. Oh, wow. Which is funny, because... What is the Kaaba suggestion to me? For me, it was supposed to do this a long time ago.
Kaaba is the holiest site in Islam. Every day, hundreds of millions of Muslims face toward it in prayer. Hotel rooms have arrows on their ceiling pointing toward it. Kings, emperors, and nation-states competed for control over it. And the need to know its relative location, no matter where you were in the world, sparked new developments in astronomy and trigonometry.
Wow.
So what is the Kaaba, and what makes it
I don't know anything about the Kaaba, like, at all. So
the word Kaaba means cube in Arabic, though the building itself isn't exactly a cube. At about 15 meters tall and 12 meters wide, it's taller than it is wide, and its sides aren't exactly the same width, but it's pretty close. The building is made out of a regularly shaped stones
that's
held together with mortar,
but okay.
with a flat wooden roof covered in metal. As you can imagine, it doesn't rain much in Mecca, but when it does, a flat roof on any building is prone to flooding. So a golden rain spout was added on the northwest side in the 1600s. Muslims worldwide pray in the direction of the Kaaba when they perform the daily prayer. The direction of prayer is called the Qibla, literally meaning direction, and it's marked in mosques around the world by a niche in the wall called a mihrab.
Oh, wow.
At least once during their lifetime, if they are physically and financially able, Muslims are also expected to make a pilgrimage to Mecca to complete the Hajj. Outside of the Hajj, millions of pilgrims come to Mecca each year to perform Umrah, an optional but still meritorious pilgrimage. The Kaaba is housed in a larger mosque complex called the Masjid al-Haram. This building has been rebuilt, redesigned, and expanded over the centuries, with the most recent expansion project conducted between 2008 and 2023. This expansion allows the mosque to accommodate up to 3 million visitors at once, though it was not...
What? That's larger than the city that I live in right now.
Without controversy, since some elements of the project, including a controversial clock tower, were built over historically significant sites, including graves of significant early Muslim figures.
Oh.
Immediately surrounding the Kaaba is called the Mataf, literally the place of Tawaf. Tawaf is a key part of the Hajj pilgrimage, ritually walking around the Kaaba counterclockwise 7 times, though religious studies scholars like to use the fancy term circumambulation, which just means walking around. Pilgrims must perform Tawaf when they first enter the Masjid al-Haram to signal their intention to begin the Hajj. They then perform it at least twice more during their pilgrimage, once before traveling to the area of Mina for the stoning of the devil, when pilgrims throw stones against a wall, and once as a
What in the world? I can't think of anything in Christianity that's like this, bro.
To end their Hajj. One of the key features of the Kaaba is the black stone, embedded in a silver case attached directly to the eastern corner of the Kaaba. Some scholars suspect that this black stone is a meteorite and trace it to a series of pre-Islamic Arabian shrines.
Ooh, meteorite, that's cool.
Adam and Eve. In these accounts, the stone fell from heaven to help them find one another as they were separated while being cast out of the Garden of Eden. When they were reunited, they built the first altar to God on the site of the fallen stone. The stone has been broken into multiple pieces over its history. First, it was damaged during a siege in 683 CE, and again during a theft by a Muslim sect called the Karmatians, who held the stone for over 100 years. When it was regained, it was cemented back together.
100 years? How can you hide something this big for 100 years?
And put back where it is now. The black stone is an important focal point for visitors and pilgrims who hope to get close enough to touch it or kiss it. There are even stories of pilgrims in the distant past seeking to smack their foreheads hard enough against the black stone to leave a permanent mark as evidence of their piety. Though some Muslim theologians...
What in the world? Now, that's a little bit too extra.
Are skeptical of this level of focus on the black stone itself. Most theologians are quick to clarify that this is not understood to be worship of the Kaaba or the black stone, but instead, worship of God.
Yeah.
There are various explanations for the symbolism of Tawaf. Some say it symbolizes how all creation orbits God. Others say it mirrors the orbit of the Earth around the Sun or the galaxy around its center. The number 7 itself is connected to the concept of 7 heavens in Islamic cosmology and is sometimes viewed as a number of perfection or completion. So
7 heavens in Islamic cosmology. Now this is a new one. 7 heavens. I've never heard of 7 heavens ever in Christianity.
Ultimately, Muslims will often...
What is that? 7 heavens? How could there be 7 heavens I would like to hear an explanation on that.
Have a much more straightforward answer. Why should Muslims circumambulate the Kaaba 7 times? Well, because the Prophet Muhammad did so and because God commanded it. As they circle counterclockwise, pilgrims will pass several important features. Between the black stone and the doors, they'll pass what is known as the multazam, or place of clinging. Here, pilgrims perform supplicatory prayer called dua, and so pilgrims will try to press their hands, chest, and cheeks to the wall of the Kaaba while praying. Immediately after the multazam are ornate gold doors. At 2 meters above the ground, they're too high for anyone to access without stairs, but a mobile set of stairs can be wheeled in when necessary. The interior of the Kaaba is off limits to everyone except some dignitaries, religious scholars, and maintenance workers.
Wow.
It is not open to pilgrims. The inside is relatively empty, with 3 wooden pillars holding up the roof, a simple storage cabinet, and a collection of lamps and incense censers strung between the pillars.
It looks
the cabinet
like
contains scented oils that are used in tandem with those sensors.
Just looks like a giant cube building. Oh, like
to anoint and perfume the Kaaba after its yearly washing. There's also a ladder leading up to the roof that's primarily used for cleaning and replacing the cloth that decorates it, called the kiswa. Now, here's an interesting thought experiment. Are you allowed to perform the daily ritual prayer within the Kaaba? Well, scholars debate this. Some argue that it is acceptable, but others argue it's not, since you'd technically be turning your back on at least some part of the Kaaba while praying. After passing the door, pilgrims will see a metal and glass display.
That's very nerd emoji, but okay.
Case to their right called the Station of Abraham. This protects a stone said to have the imprints of Abraham's feet. Now, there are multiple stories about what caused Abraham's footprints to be imprinted on this stone, but one of them claims that it commemorates when he stood on the stone to lift his son Ishmael up to complete the construction of the higher parts of the building. As pilgrims approach the edge of the northeast
Abraham? I've never heard of anything like this in the Bible.
facing wall, they'll see small brown stones embedded into white marble. This is known as the Musalla Jibril, or the prayer place of Gabriel, where the angel Gabriel is said to have taught Muhammad how to do the daily prayer. As they circle the corner, a structure called the Hatim will prevent them from hugging close to the northwest-facing wall. The Hatim is a low semicircular marble wall that Muslims believe to be part of the Kaaba built by Abraham. Its name is derived from an Arabic root for something that is broken, referring to how this section was left in disrepair during later reconstructions. This area is also called the Stone of Ishmael. Most people claim it's named this because Abraham is said to have built a structure here for Ishmael and Hagar. Because it's said to be historically part of the Kaaba, pilgrims are not supposed to enter this area during Tawaf. The area is, however, connected to important events in the history of Islam and the life of Muhammad, so pilgrims will often attempt to pray within it. It's directly below the aforementioned rain spout. Font of Mercy. Water falling from the spout is said to carry extra blessings. After passing the Hatim, the remaining 2 sides don't have any unique features or sights. People performing Tawaf might use this space to angle closer to the building with the hope of getting close enough to touch the black stone or press themselves against the multazam during their next pass. While the Kaaba itself appears to be a relatively modest building, most people don't actually see it like this, because it's more often decorated with that ornate cloth called the kiswa. Today, the kiswa is mostly black with gold embroidery, though in the past it was made in a variety of colors, including red, white, and green.
Yo, to me, who can't read that script right there, this looks fancy. But I bet to all the Arabs and Muslims who can read the script, it looks practical. No wonder why they just think it's just a regular building. But from my perspective, this should look super duper fancy with all the little scribbles. Well, it looks like scribbles, but I know that it's words. But oh wow, I never. That's a very interesting way to view it. Like, guys, I always try to imagine that with like English words too. I always try to look at English words, and I always try to imagine it like, what if I'm someone who can't speak English or like your native language, right? Like, I always try to look at these words and just think, how would this look from a perspective of a person who just never seen these words, never used these words? Like, how would this look? You know, if what my brain automatically like translate in my head, you know what I mean? I just try it. Look at any word, just try it. It's I don't know, to me it's just interesting.
The embroidery includes decorative patterns and borders surrounding Quranic verses. Each corner of the kiswa also has a medallion embroidered with the name of each corner. One corner is named after the black stone, with the other 3 named after the region toward which they point: Iraq, the Levant, and Yemen. corresponding roughly to the cardinal directions. The kiswa is made of silk and produced in Mecca at a factory by over 100 workers and artisans, and is replaced once per year during the Hajj. The old kiswa can be cut up into pieces and distributed to museums and given as gifts. The Kaaba has a long history, but not all of it is completely clear to historians. According to the Quran, the first house of worship appointed for men was that at Bakka, full of blessing and of guidance for all kinds of beings. Bakka being an alternate name for Mecca, according to most Quranic commentators. Some Muslim interpreters say that this verse means that the first man, Adam, built the first altar to God in Mecca after being cast out of the Garden of Eden.
Adam was not the first person on earth, by the way. This is a big misconception, guys. I literally kid you not. You can go reread Genesis 1-3. I think it's in Genesis 2 where it literally states that God created man and told him to go forth and reproduce. It was after he created man that he then created Adam. So Adam was not the first. He was not the first person. He was just simply the guy responsible for the Garden of Eden, and you could just, I kid you not, like, you could go read Genesis 1-2. I think it's in 2 where it says that, so it literally takes like less than 5 minutes to read that.
Other verses in the Quran refer to Abraham building the Kaaba. And remember, Abraham and Ishmael raised the foundations of the house with this prayer: Our Lord, accept this service from us, for thou art the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Muslim interpreters agree that the Kaaba was built or perhaps rebuilt by Abraham and maintained by his descendants through his son Ishmael. However, according to Islamic tradition, after many generations, people forgot about its original purpose and started dedicating it to multiple gods. Writing in the 9th century, the historian of Mecca, al-Azraqi, shares several stories about Muhammad when he took control of the Kaaba in 630 CE. He discovered it full of images and statues of various gods.
Whoa!
360 idols, but he...
Whoa! Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, ew. If there's one thing that really makes me mad is the worship of false gods. That is just... ugh.
He also found painted icons of the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus, along with an image of Abraham, which he spared. According to tradition, there was also a statue of the god who...
Huh. Oh, wow. Which is funny, because I thought we didn't have any, like, pictures of Jesus. I'm pretty sure we don't, right? I'm pretty sure we don't have that. Pretty sure we don't.
Hubal, an archaeologically attested deity from the region. Hubal is mentioned in a single Nabatean inscription from Hegra, an archaeological site a few hundred kilometers north of Mecca, which briefly mentions him alongside 2 other gods. Historians of early Islam have floated some theories as to what this early Kaaba may have looked like. An early Christian text called the Khuzestan Chronicle, which dates to around 660 CE, references an Arab ritual site in Mecca which can be translated as the Tent of Abraham. This may be a reference to the Kaaba as a tent-like structure. The Meccan scholar Ibn Jurayj, writing around 100 years after the Khuzestan Chronicle, seems to back this up when he describes the Kaaba as a tabernacle, using the same Arabic term used to describe the tent-like tabernacle built by the Israelites in the Exodus story. The scholar Uri Rubin has speculated that this might mean that the dominant element of the Kaaba at this time was the kiswa. The scholar Ahmad al-Jalad has also theorized that the early Meccan sanctuary may be rooted in a pre-Islamic Arabian practice of building temporary ritual shelters to perform animal sacrifices. These are referenced in Safavidic inscriptions with the letters STR, so we don't really know how these structures were pronounced, but clearly they had a religious function. One inscription reads, "He built the STR shelter and performed an animal sacrifice, so O Allat and Dusares may he be secure." Another reads, "He encamped by the water and then built the STR shelter and performed an animal sacrifice." Now, as I talk about in my video on the Quranic name of Jesus, Safavidic is an ancient South Semitic script that people in southern Syria and northern Jordan used to write all the various dialects of Old Arabic.
That's writing?
Related to Quranic Arabic.
Wait, this is writing? These are like people and animals What?
Scholars think the script was used between the 1st
This
century
cannot be a
BCE
script.
and the 4th century
This looks
CE,
like
give or take a
drawings.
few centuries.
This looks like drawings. At least with the other drawings that I've seen, like the Rosetta Stone and all that stuff from Egypt, it looks like it's words, but this just looks like pure drawings.
And it seems that part of ritual practice in the region involved building these temporary sacred shelters, both for sacrifices to the gods and for mourning the dead. So, in light of the Khuzestan Chronicle, the writings of Ibn Jurayj, and these inscriptions, Dr. Al-Jalad speculates that the roots of the Meccan sanctuary thus may be found in a ritual shelter like the STR. Stories about the Prophet Muhammad's life often start by highlighting the centrality of the Kaaba. Muhammad was born in the Year of the Elephant, named after a dramatic event in Islamic tradition when a Christian king from Yemen tried to invade Mecca and destroy the Kaaba using an elephant. King Abraha of Aksum was worried that the Kaaba would draw pilgrims away from his cathedral in Sana'a. According to Muslim tradition, when Abraha approached the Kaaba, his elephant refused to move forward. Eventually, the king forced the elephant to keep going, but before it could destroy the Kaaba, the sky filled with seagulls carrying rocks. They then dropped the rocks on the army, killing everyone, including the elephant. The Quran seems to refer to this in Surat al-Fil, the chapter of the elephant, which reads, "Seest thou not how thy Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant?"
You know what I find interesting? And I said this before. Just a little bit unrelated, but just hear me out. Is how the Bible speaks, like the way how the Bible or Quran, whatever, when it's translated in English, it's like it's conjugated. The verbs are conjugated. When English used to be just a plain German dialect, it's like, you know, it had all those conjugation rules and all that fun stuff. But I find it funny how the Bible is kind of like an archaic piece of English, at least when stuff is translated into English. How it uses like the conjugations, and it's weird because us English speakers, we just know it and we don't even question it. I see no one bringing that up, like, whatsoever, like the way how the Bible talks. But anyways, or like the way how anything is like translated into English from like stuff like the Bible and Quran, all that stuff. Anyways,
did he not make their treacherous plan go astray? And he sent against them flights of birds, striking them with stones of baked clay. Now, the scholar Gabriel Said Reynolds argues that the details about this event seem to be filled in by much later sources attempting to explain Surat al-Fil, though Muslim sources use this story to highlight the auspiciousness of Muhammad's birth and God's continued protection over the Kaaba despite its temporary dedication to other gods. According to tradition, the Kaaba played a significant role at other key moments in Muhammad's life. As a young man, he helped repair the Kaaba with men from each clan of the Quraysh tribe. Stone back into its spot, an argument broke out over who would get the honor. Each clan wanted one of their own members to place the black stone. Muhammad came up with a solution. He placed the black stone in the center of his cloak, and he had a member from each clan lift up part of the cloak together. Muhammad then guided the stone back into its place. This story speaks to his future role as a leader uniting the clans and tribes of Arabia. The Kaaba also plays a key role in Muhammad's ascension to heaven. According to the Quran and hagiographic stories based on Quranic verses, Muhammad traveled from the Masjid al-Haram to the Masjid al-Aqsa, and then up to heaven, all in one night.
You know, I heard I saw this funny comment. Was it on TikTok? I have no idea. But I saw this comment. It was either on YouTube, TikTok, somewhere, where someone said that Muhammad, he was basically, he was bashing Muhammad, and he said that Muhammad he tried to start Islam in Jerusalem, but it failed. And when that failed, he went to Mecca where it was successful. And he basically said that Muhammad was essentially a con man. Basically describing him like that, and he's basically talking about how like Muhammad was just like basically saying a whole bunch of nonsense, and like when he actually tried to go to the actual religious like holy cities, like nobody didn't really pay him any mind. Although I took that with a grain of salt, though. I was like, I'm gonna say that in one of my Islamic reaction videos, which I am doing it right now.
Though the Quran doesn't name their locations explicitly, they're understood to be the Kaaba in Mecca and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. In these accounts, Muhammad prays with various prophets as he ascends through the seven heavens to meet God. These stories about Muhammad and the Kaaba reveal a few important points about its role in early Islam. First, it shows that the early Muslim community aimed to reclaim pre-Islamic sacred sites and practices by linking them to monotheistic traditions, as in the polytheistic character of the Kaaba is understood to be a corruption of its earlier monotheistic character, starting with Abraham. Second, it highlights how Muhammad's life is closely tied to the Kaaba, from being born in the year it was saved from destruction to restoring it as a site of worship for God before he died. As we mentioned, Qibla is the direction toward the Kaaba. This not only plays a major role in daily prayer, but it also played a role in early Muslim identity. Early in Muhammad's career, he and his followers prayed facing Jerusalem, but during his time in the city of Medina, the direction of prayer was changed from Jerusalem to Mecca. Quoting the Quran, "Now shall we turn thee to a Qibla that shall please thee.
Bro,
Turn
this
thy face in the direction of
dude, that is looking at this is freaking insane.
the sacred mosque." This verse is surrounded by discussions about how Christians and Jews rejected Muhammad's message, and linking the Kaaba to Abraham. The scholar Fred Donner argues that Muhammad and his initial followers probably at first saw themselves as a community in alignment with Judaism and Christianity, even possibly sharing prayer spaces with Christians and Jews. And the
I honestly believe so. I mean, it's like, even now, I look at the whole, my religion is correct. I'm like, dude, if you just believe in God, congratulations, bro. Like, that's for me, that's it, bro. It's like, why not? You look, bro, we all have different interpretations of what it's like, dude. At least you believe in God, bro.
change of the Qibla from Jerusalem to Mecca may reflect tension with some of the Jewish tribes in Medina, once it became clear that they were not going to accept his revelation as he anticipated. This change in the direction of prayer would have left Muslims in Medina facing south, while
This man, what the heck? How could you wear a freaking t-shirt, bro? What in the world?
Christians would have likely faced east
Out of
during
pocket.
prayer, creating an obvious distinction between the followers of Muhammad and other monotheists in the region. In daily practice, one should pray facing Mecca with nothing symbolically between themselves and the Kaaba. It's poor etiquette to walk in front of someone who's praying, and some may stop and restart their prayer if, for example, an animal walks in front of them while praying. But what if you cannot determine the direction toward the Kaaba? This became an issue in the 20th century with the invention of air and space travel. In 2006, the Malaysian astronaut Sheikh Muzaffar Shukor was tapped to go up to the International Space Station during Ramadan. This prompted the Department of Islamic Development in Malaysia to create guidelines for how to fulfill religious obligations in space. How are you supposed to orient your body toward the Kaaba when circling Earth in microgravity? They eventually decided that any Muslim in space should try to orient themselves toward the Kaaba if they can reliably do so using the best scientific analysis. Though if they can't be certain, then simply directing themselves toward Earth is sufficient. But if even that isn't possible, then an astronaut can simply orient themselves toward wherever. This process highlights a few interesting things about Islam. First, it shows that, contrary to some non-Muslim stereotypes about Islamic law, the rules for Islamic jurisprudence are meant to be flexible and achievable by your average person. We see this in how the Qibla is meant to be determined on the International Space Station. While they should attempt to make a good faith effort to locate the direction of the Kaaba, if this is not possible, then they can simply face any direction they want. Also, reflecting on Islam and the Kaaba highlights how place matters a lot in religion, even when discussing a global religion like Islam. A lot of us are accustomed to thinking about religion in line with Protestant Christianity, thinking about religion as being internal, belief-based, and private. But most religions throughout history and around the world have beliefs and practices that orient them toward a particular land, city, building, or place, which connects them to a larger religious community.
It honestly does go back to what I said at the start of the video, how this is extremely foreign to me. Like watching this whole thing is like a whole new experience for me, really and truly. This is just completely baffling to me. Like, this is not how I'm used to. I mean, yeah, going to church is one thing, but still, this is just a whole new level. But
this community is felt in a very powerful sense when going on the Hajj, as pilgrims are surrounded by millions of fellow Muslims drawn to the center of it all, the Kaaba. Over 2 million pilgrims travel to Mecca for the Hajj. For any city, this is an absolutely massive influx of people. So how does the city's infrastructure manage? If you want to learn more about how the Saudi government pulls it off, I recommend checking out Wendover Productions' video on the logistics of the Hajj.
Are we done here?
The dedicated Hajj terminal at the Jeddah airport, the mass transit system shuttling people from site to site, and the massive air-conditioned tent city at Mina. This is one episode in a longer Wendover series about logistics, which you can watch exclusively on Nebula. Nebula is a streaming platform owned and operated by creators like
Is this a sponsor?
the science category, X-Girl, for a 40
Alright, look, you made it all the way here to the end of the video. If you let my reaction, go like the video. If you have anything that you want me to react to, go comment on the below. I will do it eventually. That was a very interesting video to react to. I'm not gonna lie. I learned some new things. They freaking pray towards the Kaaba, I mean, from the International Space Station. Wow, I'm gonna tell a lot of people that. But this is, I mean, look at these people, freaking insane. But look, man, you know, if you like my reactions, man, go make sure you subscribe. Go check out my other Islam reactions on my channel. I have a bunch of those on my channel. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.